Okay, everybody, welcome back to another DVINO Talks. At this time, we have the pleasure to have Patrick Caserta from Shinn Estates, one of the biggest, or one of the most important wineries in Long Island, in Norfolk. And welcome, Patrick, to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, we've been carrying a Shinn Estates almost probably since we opened, a little bit after we opened, and in our shop DVINO, and it is it was the first wine we had from Long Island, from the Norfolk.
Wow.
Which we are super proud to carry local wines, not only from the Norfolk but also from the Finger Lakes. But we carry, I believe Shinn Estates is the one that we carry the most SKUs, and not only we're super happy to support the local production, but also you guys have, the philosophy and the concept that we actually look for in our products, in our wines, which is sustainability, and you guys are very in tune with the terroir, with the soil as an expression of the wine, what goes in the bottle. But why don't you tell us a little bit about Shinn Estates? What's the history?
Yeah, well, Neil, for having me today. So happy to be here. And we're a fairly small little winery. We're about 25 acres. Our estate vineyard, our original estate vineyard, is 20 acres total planted to grapes. And on that property, we have Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Blanc, and Semillon for white grapes, and all the 5 classic Bordeaux varietals for red grapes. So predominantly Merlot and Cabernet Franc, with small amounts of Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Verdot, and Malbec. And then recently we purchased just right up the road from us a vineyard that was planted in 1982 called the Robert Schreiber Vineyard, and that's the source of our Riesling and our Chardonnay, which go into the wine that we'll be tasting today, Coalescence. And Shinn was founded by David Page and Barbara Shinn, who were in the restaurant business in Manhattan, had a restaurant called Home Restaurant down in the Village. And, they started coming out to the North Fork often. They kind of fell in love with the area and fell in love with the wine, the local wine that's out here. I think at one point they were serving exclusively wines from only from New York State on their menu, right before they actually sold off the business. But they sold off. They developed this property they purchased it in 1999, planted in 99 and 2000, and released their first vintage of red wine in 2002. So we have some pretty decent age to the vines right now at this point. David and Barbara have since moved on. They've retired from the wine business, and they moved on up to Maine. And our new owners, the Frankel family, Randy and Barbara Frankel, are really, really much just kind of visited the property, fell in love with it, and they really saw this place as a gem, and they were really excited to be part of taking it to the next level, and it being in their family as well. So.
Oh, I imagine, Patrick, it must be, I guess, interesting and maybe rare for people to get to drink New York wines back in the 90s, no? I mean, I'm not sure.
I'm sure, yeah. I mean, there was the first vineyard that was planted here was Hargrave back in '73, I believe it was. But there was a period of time where there were rare finds. I mean, I remember being I grew up in Connecticut. I remember being in Connecticut in the late '90s and seeing a wine from Long Island and being like, wow, I can't believe they make wine there. So I think it wasn't until probably like the 2000s, the early 2000s, where the wines just started getting around. Thank God we're so close to Manhattan, and Manhattan's always been such a big market for Long Island wine that it's fairly easy to go into Manhattan, Brooklyn, the metropolitan area, and to find areas where people really, really embrace something that's local, and especially something that's sustainable, which this region is really, really becoming known for.
Yeah, that probably that makes sense. Because we, in a way, that's how we felt when we opened up the shop. This was one of our, main ideas and premises, just to support local production. But knowing, being the wine world, I guess, we've had wine for as long as humankind or human being, it's been around in terms of, using the grapes and fermenting it. But what we know as a wine culture, it always been looking towards Europe, I guess, and in the United States, of course, California seems to be the place that's been always a reference. But wine, New York wines, it's still, even though people like it and people feel like we want to try and we want to support local production, but it's not still in the map. And I guess the Norfolk is it's pretty young. It's the region, as a wine region, is about 40 years old or so. I wonder why it wasn't in the map,
Right.
or why hasn't been in the map yet.
That's a good question. I think whenever you think of wine in the United States, obviously the first thing you think about is California, right? Because there's so many different diversities in California and different styles of wine and different grapes grown there, and it's much broader. It's a much bigger place. Here we're on this tiny tip of a tiny little island here, and so our production size is small, but now you're starting to see just a lot of talent, winemakers who've worked, wineries and have experience from all over the world globally. And they're landing here and they're excited about, what's being produced here, what's being grown here. So another thing too is, Long Island you can find Long Island wines on some of the best restaurant lists in Manhattan. And I think that certainly says something too. So, it's a region that, maybe it's because of our size, it's tough to get all, across the United States. I mean, we could easily sell out all of our production, between Washington State and Boston, DC and Boston. We're talking about roughly 40 million people or something like that. So we don't have to go far to sell our wine. Whereas in California, when you're talking about making 30, 40,000 cases of wine, 100,000 cases of wine, those channels have to run much deeper than Long Island. So maybe that's part of it too.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the fact that the size of a region, it's not that big, it makes it perfect for the local consumers. And being in New York, we get people from all over the world. I guess it's a good window. It's a good place. It's a good spot to showcase the wines. So I was reading also that Shinn Estate was the first winery on the East Coast to be powered entirely by alternative energy.
Yes.
How did that project came up to be part of a winery?
Yeah. I mean that happened before I came on board, but David and Barbara saw the opportunity of taking it to the next level in terms of sustainability, which was always their model. And with the use of solar panels and wind turbine, wind energy. And between those two, we're pretty much able to power our entire winery based on the energy sources from those two, the wind and the solar. And you're starting to see a lot more of that. There's definitely more wind powered energy happening out here. You're seeing a lot more windmills out here, as well as solar. But I think it's kind of the trend of the region where they're moving into more of a sustainable. Considering the size, it's not like California where there's a couple thousand wineries. We're much smaller, and everybody kind of we're getting on the same page in terms of the way that we think and being sustainable.
You joined the Shinn Estate family back in 2011, I believe, and you have
correct.
Right. You
2011.
Yeah. Right. You come from culinary arts, but then you expand your work in the wine world. You were in France, California, New Zealand. So how did all that come together and ended up, in Long Island?
Well, I grew up in Connecticut, so where I grew up, and I'm an East Coaster at heart. So I always knew that one day it'd be really cool to be making wine in Long Island, which is a little bit closer to where I actually grew up. than say California or Washington State or somewhere out west. But I went to in 2000 from the Culinary Institute of America, and we took a field trip to Millbrook Winery in the Hudson Valley. And I remember the moment I stepped off the bus, I knew that this was really something different and something I knew nothing really about, but I really, really liked it. And from that moment, I was thinking, I was always had in the back of my mind, I always had, wine as a career. I didn't really know how, but it was always something that I really wanted to pursue. And I got the opportunity to go to New Zealand in 2001 to work the harvest there. I knew that I could do two harvests in 1 year if I went to the north and the southern hemisphere. So I was able to work in New Zealand, and then I came back and I got a position at a winery at Rudd Estate in Napa. And after that, I knew that this is something I want to go to school for and really pursue. When I was going to school for winemaking in California, I visited Long Island. That was my first experience, and this would have been 2004. And I remember drinking. We stopped at about 4 wineries, and all 4 wineries, the wines were excellent, and it just kind of reassured myself that this would be a great place to land. You don't have to be in California in Napa Valley to be making really, really high quality, world class wine. So I always kept that in the back of my head that one day, hopefully, I'd love to come back to Long Island because it's close to where I grew up, being an East Coaster too. I just was really fortunate to be here now. So.
That's great, man. That's great. And, so with all the experience you collect and being in all these places, what can you tell us about the terroir in Long Island? I mean, what makes it that interesting, or that, what's the combination there that makes this quality wine?
Well, I think one thing is just where we're situated on the map. We're between 2 bodies of water. So we're moderated. When you get the extreme temperatures that you might feel in Brooklyn or more inland, a lot of that extreme weather doesn't make its way to the North Fork of Long Island, in the sense of, like, for example, a big snowstorms. A lot of times you might get 8 inches of snow in Manhattan, and we get a dusting because we're jetted out in between the Atlantic Ocean and the Sound. So we're protected. We're a little bit more protected. And those temperatures in the wintertime are a little bit more moderate too, which protects us from deep frosts and anything that might happen with any kind of vine kill that might happen with those extreme temperatures. And we have really, really well draining soils here. This is pretty much a glacier. Long Island was once just a large glacier that came down from Wisconsin, I believe, and it's pretty rich. It's fairly rich in all of the elements that we need to grow world-class wine here.
Interesting. Yeah, that's. I always wonder what's the magic of the soil in Long Island. It's a lot about freshness in the wine. It's a lot about the fruit, not necessarily so much of an intervention. So why don't we start with the Coalescence? Why don't you tell us about this wine?
So, it's our highest production wine that we make in terms of a white wine. We do between 8 and 1,000 cases of wine, of the Coalescence each year. And, the idea is to create something that's very fresh, not high in alcohol, wonderful for warmer weather, great natural acidity, just showcase the brightness of the style of wine here from the North Fork of Long Island. And, every year it's always a blend of Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, and Riesling. And in the past couple of years, we started adding small amounts of Semillon and Pinot Blanc that we grow on the property here as well. And, all of those grape varieties, they're all harvested separately. They're all fermented separately in stainless steel tank. And then kind of, once fermentation's done, the wines are dry. The blend is created. The wines are made sit outside in a tank over the winter and cold stabilize and cold settle. But the idea is this wine is just being a light, crisp, not an overbearing wine, just something that has great aromatics, lots of natural fresh acidity, something that goes good with the food here from the North Fork in the summertime.
All right, let's take. Cheers.
Cheers.
I mean, as you just said, it's all about freshness, stone fruit, and it's definitely a summer wine. Nice acidity. What would you pair this wine with, Patrick? What would you recommend?
Certainly, like any kind of shellfish that come here from that's you can find here in the North Fork. Obviously, we had it with scallops the other day. That was just awesome. It can complement or it can contrast food. It can complement something that has a little bit more of acidity in the food. That's going to go well. But because of that natural acidity, it could contrast something well that is something a little bit more richer, like if you were to grill some kind of whitefish or even grilled vegetables. So I mix the balance with in many different avenues of the preparation of the food. But
right.
Obviously we like to say in Long Island, we like to say the whites, the local seafood, what comes out of the bay or what comes out of the sound locally is what goes great with the local white wines here.
Yeah.
And it definitely has a little bit of that brininess too. There's nice minerality that you get from from our soils here. But and then again, it's when we harvest these grape varietals for Coalescence, we're not looking for really, really high sugars and high development of the grape, the varietal itself. We're looking for just more natural acidity. We want it to be bright. We want it to be fresh. So you're getting more like the stone fruit, that kind of thing. But definitely I always think like that the minerality of the region really comes out.
So there's no wood in this wine at all. It's all
no wood at all. Yeah. We're fermenting for this wine specifically. It's literally just the grapes get harvested, they get pressed to juice, they go into the tank. There's no sulfur. We don't add any sulfur at harvest time for any of our wines. So for the most part, it's literally just grape juice that goes into the tank. For this Coalescence, there is, we're not adding sulfur. So there's the natural yeast that's fermenting the wine. There is also a little bit of some cultured yeast as well for the Pinot Blanc that we used for this one as well. But we list the ingredients, which I think on the back of our labels. We're very transparent and another way to bring the sustainability to the next level. And it's just grapes, certified sustainable, estate-grown grapes. A little bit of bentonite because we want the wine to be protein stable. We don't want globs of protein to be floating around in the wine, so it's more of an aesthetic thing. There is no bentonite in this wine. That's all been removed prior to bottling. And then at bottling is when we'll add a little bit of sulfur because we want it to be age-worthy as well too. So
right.
So very, very hands-off in terms of the winemaking process.
Yeah, that's really important. You made a name as a sustainable winery, and also, as you mentioned, a few years ago, you guys were the first winery to list the ingredients in the back of the bottle, which is something sometimes rare to see, or maybe now a little bit more often, but before you just get what you get. Are you a organic or biodynamic certified winery?
We're not certified organic. So in that sense, we can't be certified biodynamic because you need to be certified organic before you can be certified biodynamic. But we use organic and biodynamic principles. Pretty much everything we do, with the exception of one foliar spray that we use, is classified as organic. However, this one foliar spray that we use is organic in many other parts of the world. So hopefully it's just a matter of time till that gets approved as being an organic spray. And then at that point, we will be, pretty much farming organically, entirely organically.
Yeah. Sometimes people, I have permanent contact with customers, and we know that the organic certification could be a hectic process, or sometimes a little bit political too, and it involves a lot of paperwork. But the fact that we tell people and customers that they trust us, and it's like we're passing down the sort of the message that you guys are very minimal intervention, and and in this case you're practicing organic. That's something that our customers really appreciate, even though they're not looking for the for the stamp or something that certifies it. But this is being one of the remarks of this wine when we get customers at the shop that they want to know more about New York wines, and this is something that is it brings up a curiosity for the customers. Okay, Patrick, let's move to the red blend.
Okay.
One of my favorite wines from you guys, this red blend here. I particularly I like both wines and kind of a Bordeaux blend influence. So let's try this one then. So we have here 65% Merlot, 15% Cabernet Franc, 15% Cabernet Sauvignon, and 4.5 Malbec. So
yes, and this is this is a non-vintage wine, and that kind of gives us the freedom to to blend. It's a non-vintage wine, but it's always going to be a blend of two vintages. So in this case, it's the 2018 vintage and a little bit of wine from the 2017 vintage. It kind of gives us the flexibility to to make the quality of the wine a little bit better. If you might be having one vintage is a little bit stronger than the other. And so this is actually largely, I believe it's about 85% from the 2018 vintage, which was a challenging vintage for us for sure. But we knew that a lot of the grapes that we harvested in 2018 would work really, really well for our red blend. And we had a little bit of wine from 2017 vintage that was had been aging in barrel for about 12 months at that time. That would add a little bit, but that vintage every year, it's just kind of whatever Mother Nature gives us in terms of the yield that year. And this is largely wine that's coming from aged in used French oak barrels, so they're not adding any real pronounced oak flavors to it. It's more of just a vessel, because at this point those barrels are pretty neutral. So we really just kind of wanted to showcase the fruit of the vintage, adulterated way of making a certain bottling of red wine here.
All right, taste. Cheers.
Cheers.
Wow, delicious. I love this wine. I like the red cherries and the red fruit, which is right in your kind of takes over.
Mm-hmm.
It's also it's really fresh. So I mean, it's a kind of a Bordeaux blend wine, but it's not that heavy. It's not that super tangy. Instead, I feel it's got some freshness. Would you chill this wine a couple of notches, or?
I have mine at cellar temperature right now, and I think it's showing really, really well because of that. And I think it becomes a little bit more versatile too. I think with food, if you put just a slight chill to it, right. There is a little bit of oak in this wine. So I know that when you kind of chill a wine that has oak in it, weird flavors and aromas that go on. But I definitely think it, like a cellar temperature, like what I'm drinking it right now is 62 or so. It's showing really, really nicely. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and you can feel that. I don't know, maybe that a little bit of toastiness or coffee in the, but it's not so invasive. So it adds to it. It's not that it embraces it all, which is yeah. I think this is a great wine. This is definitely you know, it's you guys in the label, you know, you call it a table wine.
Yeah.
You know, usually a table wine gives the idea of a simple wine that is good, you know, for food. But I would think that it's got a, you know, step higher. Not only will be great for, you know, to pair it with different meals, as you guys suggest here, you know, spicy food, pork, beef, but definitely, you know, it's a wine that you can enjoy on its own.
Yeah, definitely a very food-friendly wine. And, you know, there's certain blocks in the vineyard that, you know, those grapes get harvested and we know that they're going to be good to make this wine. So I'm not getting really aggressive with the extraction, you know, with the hang time for additional ripeness. Because I know that I'm for this wine, I'm trying to make a softer style of wine, something that's a little bit more appealing, something it's more approachable now, something that's a little bit more versatile with food, and not something that you know you need to lay down for several years before you can start drinking. Kind of the idea behind this one.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely very approachable. And you know, one thermometer that I always have, it's when you have a gathering, which we haven't having in a while now. But you know, when you go to a party and everybody brings a bottle of wine, anything could be any type of wine. But then through the night, for us that we've been, you know, I've been getting to know wine every time more and more. You know, you get the different flavors and different things going on in each bottle and how they relate to what's going on in the, you know, so maybe you grab a bottle of big bold wine that doesn't necessarily, you know, goes with the conversation, but this is the kind of wine that will be perfect for even for that kind of, you know, occasion, just to sit and talk, to have a good meal, and even, you know, for I would say a barbecue outside,
Mm-hmm.
a nice temperature, it will definitely go well with it. So Patrick, what should we expect from the? I just know, and I want to tell this to you know, to the people who's watching this. You guys are just finishing or are bottling 2019 vintage.
Yes, for the whites.
Right. What should we expect though from?
Well, 2019 was, you know, I think in a couple of years, people are going to be talking about 2019 is maybe one of the greatest of all time here. So we're really, really excited about that. Some of the highest natural sugar levels, some of the ripest grapes we ever harvested, 2019. I'm really specifically excited about our Sauvignon Blanc because we got such high natural sugar and such a really, really good varietal character. That was kept separate to go into our Sauvignon Blanc bottling, our first fruit bottling. The reds across the board are just really, really solid. They're behind me aging in barrel, and those are probably going to age in barrel for close to 20 months when it's all said and done. So look to about 2021, the summer of 2021, when we'll be bottling those. But there's a lot of buzz in the region, and we especially are really excited about the 2019 vintage.
Well, that's great to know. That's a great news. It's you know, that put us in perspective, and you know, we're very curious now with that vintage. So Patrick, thank you so much for accepting the invitation. I know you guys are super busy. Patrick Caserta, winemaker for Shinn Estates. We love to visit back. I actually went last summer with my family. We stopped by the winery for the July 4th weekend, and it was delicious. We had, you know, delicious wines, and next time I think I really want to stay at the bed and breakfast and enjoy.
Yeah, come on out and stay with us. Come on out and stay with us. Yeah,
we'll definitely do.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to that day. We'll get together again. Winery opens back up, and you know, we can have those crowds again back here, and the excitement and the energy of the winery. But for now, you know, it's great to be doing this with you online, and I'm honored that you asked me, and I thank you to you and your staff, and you know, all for your support. So.
Thank you. We're super happy to carry your wines and you know, to work with you and the whole Norfolk community, and you know, all the local wineries. Cheers, Patrick. Cheers to everyone at Shinn Estates, and we'll be in touch. We'll get together soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers.